So eventually, people went away, they went back to school, and but I was still, every day, going home and sitting in front of that table going, okay, I gotta put the puzzle back. And sometimes my dad would join me, and it was really nice because I wasn't doing the puzzle alone anymore. And sometimes I would watch my mother come from the kitchen where she was making dinner, come pick up a random piece and put it right where it was supposed to be. That was an amazing experience, and I love the fact that the puzzle, when it was finished, I got to sit there and go, oh, look at that, I built that. And the fact that it was 10,000 pieces, how amazing was that? And it gave me a real love for making things happen, for creating, putting things together. And so I haven't done a puzzle in a really long time, but I do them all the time. I went to IKEA recently and I bought a couch. You know what the best part about that couch is? I got to put it together. And I feel such pride when I come home and I sit on my couch. I love it. It's mine. But you know, those puzzles are kind of simple. There's an end picture. It's very clear what I'm supposed to do. They even come with a set of instructions. The puzzles that I really love are actually completely different. I want them to be hard. I want them to be as unclear as possible. I want the picture to be shifting. I was in an interview about 12 years ago for a job that I knew I was going to have, and he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I take pieces of the puzzle and I integrate things and I kind of shift the picture as it moves along, and I bring in all the pieces that I have to build so that I can build a solution that makes sense. That's what I do. You know, I knew I had the job, but you know what I got in that moment from his eyes? I got respect. Because he had never thought about looking at life that way, looking at what we did in technology in a way that was so simple. And in fact, I'm always building puzzles. And you know, I love puzzles. The bigger, the more complicated, and work gave me that. But a few years ago, I had a different path. I looked at books through my entire life, and I thought, man, that would be amazing to write a book. How many people here thinks it would be amazing? Yeah. You know what? I also thought it was impossible to write a book. Me write a book? I have a degree in mathematics. No way I'm going to write a book. And so I started to face some of the fears. I went back and I studied how to write essays because I thought, well, maybe I'll go back to school. And you know what? Writing essays kind of sucks. But writing essays, when it's a personal essay on something that really mattered to me, what I discovered was that it flowed through me. The energy would come, and it would just come, and it would go out of my hands onto the paper. And all of a sudden, I had written a 7-page paper, and guess what? It wasn't misery. And what I had to say was important, and it mattered to me. So I discovered that when I wrote something that really came through me, that mattered, and when I allowed that to happen, it would just come. So I decided that I would write a book. And that's pretty impressive, but me, I'm going to write a book. My mother wrote one, so I knew it was possible. But I started and I did all these exercises. One was I would just sit there and I would write a sentence, and it's called the Writer's Toolkit. Write a sentence and I would just write what would come next. And I would see the pictures in my head. And as I was doing this, I could see the energy coming out of my hands. It was like the light could come in, and it was just like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I wrote 80,000 words, and I thought it was great. And I even read books about what not to do. And one of the things they said not to do was, you know, you don't want to make it so desperate, like desperate, that the characters can't come back from it. And I'm like, no, I didn't do that. And I go and I find a coach, and she asked me about my story, and I'm like, well, this person dies, and this person dies, and this person left, and all of this, and I realized I had written a lot of drama. And so I had broken that rule. And so I had to shift my end picture of what that wanted to be. So my next step was going, okay, I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to pull a frame together. And because a book is a pretty big deal, it's huge. How do you write 80,000 words? It was inconceivable to me that I could write 80,000 words. So I split it up into 4 parts, and I based it on an intention. Every part had an intention. The first part was a discovery, an appreciation, an acceptance, and a choice. And the book is based on that. And then I knew what I wanted to write about. It was my essay. And I started, and I didn't think about it. I stopped looking at every word. I didn't focus on, oh, I made a mistake. Because when I used to write that way, and that's probably why essays were so hard, I couldn't write at all. I would get stuck on paragraph number 2, and it would be a painful process. But I let it come. I wrote 80,000 words in 6 weeks. Was it a masterpiece? Absolutely not. Because I didn't have all the tools in my toolbox. I had now had a really nice frame, and I had an idea of what the end picture looked like. But now I had to go and learn what it was to actually write a good book and why people would want to read it. So I got a coach, and she coached me through the process. And that was really interesting because she challenged me on some sections. Why do you need that there? Why is this piece here? And I would go, well, it's there because I want it. Exactly. And I had to learn to let go of what I had come to expect would be the end result. And this whole process was always about letting go. But you know, and sometimes you have to also stand up for what's right for you. I had my book evaluated by the editor before it was published. And the guy came back, and it was obviously a man who had evaluated. They don't tell you. And he'd come back and he said, no way a woman in their 30s would have gone with an education, would have never gone to a gynecologist. And he was really making a judgment. And I said, no, I think there's a lot of people who are afraid. And I knew because, one, I was one, by the way. I was 34 by the time I went to a gynecologist. Yeah, I know. I was afraid. And my mother had never said, you should go. So I had to learn to let go, but also to fight for what I believed in. I had to learn other tools as well. I had to learn what made rhythm happen in a book. You know, and it's a storytelling. It's like putting a symphony together, and the notes have to come together, and they have to play together and against each other. I didn't know what that would be. I knew that I had read a bunch of books, and I knew that I naturally read that. But to create that, what ended up happening is that every word in that book had a purpose. And every word was part of a sentence, which was part of a chapter, and the chapter was part of the book. And every part had a role to play. It was an amazing puzzle because I had no idea what the end result would be. But what did happen is that eventually I got to the end result, and I got to publish it. And it was a process of putting myself out there and saying, hey, this is my book, this is who I am. But you know what? Why I did that book? Not because it would be impressive, because it was the right thing for me to do. And when I did that book, the light came through me and it came out of my hands. And the part for me that is my passion is actually to create. Because now that it's over, I almost want to take it like the puzzle and go, oh, I never saw it again. It goes away and I never look at it again. This is one of the biggest achievements I've ever done in my life. Not because it's great, but because I did it for myself. And it's part of a much bigger puzzle. It was just one piece in what I call the happiness puzzle. I had a plan since I was 5 that I could be more. I could be happy. 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to be happy, and I wasn't. And I worked hard, and I went through school, I went through university, I did everything that you could possibly do to become happy. But you know what? I ended up in a job doing consulting work and not liking it very much. But I was like, wow, I'm supposed to be happy. I've done everything right. But life doesn't happen that way. In 2005, I met a man. His name was John McCullough. And I met him, fell in love with him, and then he committed suicide 12 weeks later. You know, it's a piece of my puzzle, and that our puzzles interact with other people, and the universe is there to support us. As awful as that event was, it actually gave me energy to find a better purpose, to find a way to live my life in a way that meant something to me, to find happiness. And you know what? Along the way, I met all these pieces that I didn't like very much. It was easy to shine the I work hard card and I can solve problems, but it wasn't so easy to shine the I'm a fat woman and I don't like her very much, or the oh my God, I hate this one, and the I want to die card. And really, I want to die. I wanted to die. I had it in the back of my throat. How did you come and accept that that piece is part of your puzzle? And through a 5-year process, I went through that, and I accepted every one of those pieces. You know that I want to die card, the I'm not happy card, they taught me that I could have freedom and that I could have choice. They have brought me closer to myself than I could ever have imagined. But it's just as true for the pieces that are good. The part of me that is working hard at a company that I don't really like brought me there as well. Everything has a purpose. You know, I did the Erickson coaching model, or the Erickson, it's based on the Erickson, Erickson. And one of the things they say is that everything that we do has a positive intention behind it. And I firmly believe that every part of ourselves has a firm intention. Sometimes I don't want to look at them, but it doesn't mean that they're there. And when we're not looking at them, they come up. Whether or not we like it, they come up and they look at us. And for me, that was on Ikada in 2005. The universe said, okay, Natalie, enough. You haven't done what you needed to do. You haven't been listening to that inner voice. Enough. And that book came out of that story. It came out of that healing. And when I finished that book, something unexpected happened. All the pieces that I've been working on so hard for so many years started to blend in together. It was no more a before and after Johnny Kala. It was just me. It was whole. I was happy. That was me. And I'm so proud of that. Still, it's not over. I'm only 40 years old, and I still have a future ahead of me. And I have a bigger puzzle, which is my life to complete. I don't know what that picture looks like at the end. I'll tell you, though, sometimes I wish I knew. I wish that, that picture that I grew up with, which is to be successful, whatever that means, would just manifest itself and everything would be great. The problem with that picture is it's not the one that I wanted. Maybe I wanted it when I was 5. Actually, when I was 5, what I really wanted was the guy to come up on his horse, pick me up, and take me away, and would live happily ever after. I wanted that when I was 20, by the way, and when I was 35. So the picture keeps changing, and what I want keeps changing. The difference now is that as I go through it and as I have goals, I can just let it go. So when we talk about passions, it's not about, for me, I've been having one passion in my life. It's about following my heart, following my connection, and following what's real for me. So as I go through it, it just opens up. And the universe, I believe, will open up with me when I do that. And the bigger puzzle is, who am I? And there's always supposed to be an answer to the who am I? Who are you? What do you do for a living? And I hate that question. Because how am I supposed to answer that? I always feel like I'm lying. To you guys, I would say, well, I'm a theta healer and I'm a coach too. And I might say, well, I'm not really a coach. But to my work friends, I tell them, I'm a project manager. I'm really good at it. And I do process consulting. To the people I really want to impress, I'm a writer. I wrote a book. Made 43 cents out of that. But I'm a writer. So it really depends. And really, what I really want to answer is I am me. I am Natalie. This is who I am. And Natalie is actually quite a confusing person. I'm all of these parts. I'm a writer, I'm a project manager, I'm a consultant. I'm a lover, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I'm probably an enemy to someone as well. I'm all of these parts and more. And I'm continuously trying to balance and integrate these parts and to form the puzzle that's continuously shifting. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank God that it's a puzzle that I don't know the conclusion of, because man, that would be cool. So,
Thank you.